All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining tonight's studio visit with artist Cheng Ting Ting. And Ting Ting is currently in Norway right now. Ting Ting, can you wave to everybody?
Hello, everyone.
And tonight we have two guest moderators. We have Priyanka. Hi, Priyanka. We also have
Hello.
Gala. Hi, Gala. So Priyanka and Gala are the participants of Parasite 2020 workshops for emerging arts professionals. And today we have the greatest pleasure of having these two moderating Ting Ting's student visit. So before we start, Priyanka and Gala would like to introduce about yourselves.
Sure, I can go first. My name is Priyankar. I'm working for the Kathmandu Triennale as a curatorial assistant here in Kathmandu, and I do various research related to archives, art, and also public health.
My name is Gala Berger. I'm also an artist and an independent curator. I'm in San Jose, Costa Rica right now, so it's very early in the morning. So you are like in the future for me now. And also I want to say thank you to Parasite to change to this digital form and allow us to be here and to present the amazing work of Ting Ting. Please stay all the presentation. It's not every day that we can see an artist who can share so much and be vulnerable and I don't know, and experimental at the same time. So please stay, join us. Will be a fantastic trip for today.
Thank you too, and special thank you to Gala for the comment. So, well, without further ado, shall we start? And to all the participants, you can leave your questions in the chat box. And I think the moderators will let you know when is a good timing to just, unmute yourself and speak to the artist directly.
Sounds good. And please feel free to drop the questions as Ting Ting is presenting as well, and we will try to ask those questions to Ting Ting as appropriate.
Yes.
So no need to wait until the very end.
Yeah, because we think that it will be a long wait for you to ask your question if you have to wait until the end. So everyone, please feel free to drop any question in between, and yeah, it's fine. Because it's fine that I don't finish my presentations, and yeah, it's fine. So shall I start? Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Okay. Yes. So hello, everyone, especially to those that I know from Hong Kong. Yeah, it's really glad for me today to have an online meeting with all of you. And today I'm going to present mainly what I have done during last year and also maybe some previous work. So maybe let me share my screen now. Here. Yes, okay. Is everyone seeing the screen now? Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
perfect. Then full screen. So yeah, so maybe let me introduce a bit about myself because in the previous year I have been working in Hong Kong as an independent artist, mostly work on painting, drawing, some 2D stuff you may say. And I graduated from Baptist University in 2013 for my bachelor program. And last year in August, I moved to Norway in order to study my master program here. So yeah, I have been traveling a bit since last year, and here I am. And it is 3 p.m. in Norway now. So let's begin with the city and the school studio. I think it's very important to talk about the city that I'm living right now because I always think that the environment, the living environment matters a lot for my art practice. So the city that I'm living right now is called Bergen. That is the second largest city in Norway, but what we call city is not actually that city feeling. It's more like a small town, because in general in Norway you don't have a sense of big city at all. So Bergen, even it is the so-called second largest, is also a quiet town, which without many people, but it's very calm. And when I think of how to describe Bergen, I would say it is always very ordinary. It is incredibly ordinary, because to me it is a bit strange at first, because when we live in Hong Kong, we are very used to pace which is very varying all the time, and usually we will feel all the extremes instead of the like in between feeling. So Bergen to me is neither exciting nor boring. So that is very interesting to me, because yeah, I didn't expect to have such an ordinary feeling that is so different from Hong Kong. So you can see these are some photos of my neighborhood near my home. So they are always like park, some lake, and that is how Norway looks like usually. And so I think this kind of ordinary environment really allows me to have lots of reflection about myself, even stronger than I was in Hong Kong. So in that sense, I think it is positive to me for living in this environment. And here I'm going to show you some of my school studio shots. This looks very messy because I think this is the first few months that I was working in my school studio. But to be honest, it is not a perfect studio for working, because it is a shared studio space. So there are other students who are also working in the same area. And I was so spoiled in the previous year that I rent my own space and I have my own area of exploring about myself. But then now I have to share it with other people again. So to be honest, I'm not very focusing in the studio. And maybe I've also find it very difficult to work on something that I may want to explore, but it's not really a very problematic, because in our school we have so many other space of each medium. So if you want to do, say, printmaking, you can go to the printmaking studio, and if you want to do other stuff, you can go to that area. So to me, it's not super problematic to have this studio space, but of course, there will be a bonus if there is a better space. So you can also see that there are lots of work, some paintings on paper. Some of them are maybe some reference that I'm looking at, some reference photos. They are from news. Some of them are my snapshots in daily life. So yeah, many things going on. And that was how it looks like at the beginning of my study life. As I said, it is very free to explore different things in my study here. So this was the first workshop that I attended. It was about spray painting, and that's why you can see some I just feel like I play around a lot, because to me in the previous years I worked intensively on my art practice. But now, as a student again, I feel like I can have a total freedom to try out everything. So to me, especially when it is in the beginning, it was just like playing around, and it was really fun. So this is the outline of today's presentation. The first part will be talking about some exploration in different art media. The second part is about writing. Third part is about one of a group of work called Midnight TV, and the last part will be some paintings that I have done in the lockdown. Gala, do you have something to say?
Yes, if you can divide these things in what they meant for you. Like we talked the other day so much about how it's writing for you, just to make like a complete idea about that for you.
Yes, yes,
And
and maybe I can talk about each part now as
Yes.
you
and
think
also to add to that, you're also mentioning how in Hong Kong you were known more for your paintings, and now you're sort of exploring all of these other mediums that aren't necessarily new. Like you've worked with them before, but that's why you've retitled it like revisiting rather than like a new medium itself. Would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, because I think even for today's presentation, it's impossible to cover everything about what I have been doing. But I highlight these 4 parts. I have my reason. The first part, as I said here, is like a revisit. When I'm studying here, I always feel that when I try out different other art media, I think it is a kind of revisit to some of the art media. Because in the past, when I was studying my BA program in Hong Kong, I have also tried these different areas, for example, the ceramics, photography, and also printmaking. And I like this media a lot, even as a viewers, but I never go deeper into it. And maybe when you first try it out in your BA study, you just feel like, you are learning the technique instead of really studying the language of the art media. So it's totally different experience when I try to revisit that art media again. And yeah, so that's why when I come here to study, I really want to do this revisit instead of just focusing on my painting again and again. Because it doesn't matter a lot if I do something really silly or really in a mess or inorganized. It doesn't matter for me. So that's why this part is important. And also the writing part, I think, is very surprising to me, because I also mentioned to Priyanka and also Gala that in the past, I never think that writing could be a way of expressing about myself. But now I would have more confidence to try to write something out and to present to other people as well. Because I think the main reason or the main inspiration is from a writing course that I attend here. So in the course, we try to study different writings that artists did. And suddenly I have a feeling that, actually, if you let yourself trust the writings that you are writing, then you may have that honest feeling of doing writing. So, and also I think it relates so much to the living environment as well, because the city atmosphere make me so calm in general. So I think I just have that urge to write down something, even when I was taking the light well. Or when I was just sitting in the cafe, I feel like, I have to write something down. And after a while, when I look at them again, I also feel like, maybe there's some other possibilities of using these writings. So I think I want to highlight writing so much because I spent quite a lot of time to do the writing here in Bergen. And the third part would be Midnight TV. It's a series of work with some paintings, sculptures, or it is like a setting. I didn't plan to group them together, but at the end, I think they share the same accent and share the same theme. So that's why I grouped them together. And the last part would be some paintings that I did in the lockdown, because then I try to use my home studio or create the home studio. It's it maybe is many of them look like some work in progress, but yeah, as I said, it doesn't matter a lot what I am doing here in Bergen, so I enjoy a lot in doing that. Yeah. So
Thank you, Ting Ting.
yeah. So maybe let's get started.
Yeah.
But before the start, we have to see some previous work because maybe there are some audience that don't know me at all. So let's see. So I will just go through them very quickly because you can also see them from my personal website if you want to see more. And so yeah, so in the previous years, I work on oil painting for most of my time. The main interest in doing artwork is always to capture, for me, it's always to capture some state of mind that I think it just really frees us at some moment. Because during a flow of our life, I think sometimes we are just going with the flow and not feeling present all the time. But whenever I have some special moment, I feel that, oh, this is really significant for me, then I want to capture that. And usually maybe I start with from my personal perspective, but yeah, I think it applies to many other people, and sometimes it's a kind of universal observation to all of us. Yes. Yes, please.
Priyanka first this time, sorry.
Okay.
Okay. Another question. I think we talked about this too. What I found interesting is that like some of your earlier works actually have quite a few figures in them. Like you can see humans, and eventually they start becoming almost like remnants of a figure. Like there's still that coat over there, but there's no longer that body necessarily. And I love the way you describe how you perceive figures and objects. Could you perhaps add a little bit on that?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Because yeah, I think this is also a question that some viewers may ask me in the past. Yeah, I think that change happened, I guess, in 2017 or 2018. That's the time that I start to rent my own studio space. I think that influenced quite a lot because after having my own space, I start to realize that actually when I do my previous painting with more figures, maybe it is also like depicting objects. So for saying that, I mean in general, I like depicting a whole scenery instead of just figure or just object. So they are not separated. They are all together, and I want to look at how things are integrated together and how they communicate with each other within the same environment. So in the past, maybe there are more figures, but I also feel like for my observation, there are not much difference from observing objects, so or still life. So at a certain point, I start to depict more still lifes instead of some figures. Because to be honest, the previous figures, they also look like very static, and they are kind of like non-living things. Yeah. So yeah, I guess that increasing time of having the self-reflection really makes me more clear about what I'm actually looking at. Because I guess it's quite common that for when I first graduate from university, I'm still not sure what I'm looking at. Maybe you just paint, but you are not sure what you are looking at. But when I have my own space, I feel then I can see clearly now. This is the last two paintings.
No, sorry. Can we go back to the ones are in newspaper? Like you told
Oh
us
yes,
this
this one.
amazing story about how you started to do these small drawings and then they become like something else, something bigger, something more important for you. And
Yes.
I think you make this comparison between them and housework. So I love that idea as well. I think if you can develop a little bit more.
Yeah, because when we talk about this work before, I think obviously you can see that these are some works on canvas which maybe look more formal to most of the viewers, but this work, they are just on paper. They are on some newsprint, so it is supposed to be the cheapest quality of the paper that we have. They are just newspaper paper. And I put some paints on it, and they are all from the leftover paint, because usually when you start a huge canvas, you would not have the exact amount of paint for your paintings. So every time there are some leftover, and that's why when I was working in my studio, I started to develop different habits. And as I described to Priyanka and Gala, I said, these things I like doing some housework, because every day maybe I have to put the cup back to a place and put back the watch to the same place. And this is the same logic as I do this work on paper, because when I was working on some other work on canvas, they are also on the other side of my studio, and I also keep painting this work. They look smaller, but they are very significant to me, because uh, they are more like housework or something that you have to keep touching them every day, instead of make it intensively. So it's a little bit different. But yeah, at the beginning, I don't think they are some formal work for presenting. But actually, then after all, I think it is indeed so important to me, because they record how I behave in the studio. Yeah. So let's move on. This and also this one is the last painting that I create before leaving Hong Kong. I think it was exhibited in Tai Kwun. But at that time, I can't concentrate so much because the protest in Hong Kong has already started. So, yeah, I try my best, but I think I'm not concentrating so much. Okay, so let's talk about the revisit. I would say for the coming photo that you see, or the image you see, they all look very experimental. And actually the experiment is quite brief, because sadly, when the coronavirus was outbreaked, then our school also shut down. So I just started something, but I didn't explore so much, sadly. But yeah, I still want to show what I have done. So the first medium that I'm going to talk about is ceramics. In ceramics, I think the most interesting part is about the glaze. As you can see here, there are some coating on top of the ceramic surface. So this the weak pale blue on covering the ceramics. And because I think for the glaze, it works so much similar as paint in my painting. So it is more like painting on a 3D objects instead of the 2D surface. I also tried some drawings on ceramics, and they are the underglaze technique. So you paint before the transparent glaze. So I think it was quite fun to work on this exploration, but really I didn't do a lot because of the lockdown. So I just show whatever I can show here now.
Someone saying they love the drawings on the ceramics.
Okay,
Comments.
thank you. Yes. Okay, then it's about photography. For photography, I bought a film camera here in Bergen, and because in the past when I was studying my bachelor program in university, then I already liked a lot the feeling to work in darkroom. So and I also think that creating or capturing the kind of reality image is also very interesting to me, because in painting, usually maybe I already make things looking abstract or more like strokes and paints. They are no longer readable for most of the people. But in photography, we are like capturing the so-called real reality. And I don't know, I like that sense of capturing this, even though I'm not working on that all the time on my painting. Yes, question?
Yes, I want to say something that maybe you will tell like in a moment, but anyway, I want to say it. Like maybe this real camera makes you like make photographs that don't end up in the picture cemetery, right? Like I'm thinking of that now. Like you make this like real photo in the dark room, and this have like this materiality. And it's opposed to the one that we are going to see in just 5 minutes or so. Like, you know, like Priyankar, like we remember that we laugh a lot about this cemetery.
Yeah, the graveyard where you put all of your excessive picture archives. But that would be
But
interesting to see, like,
yeah.
what's the difference between the two different types of photography that you're engaging with, or if they're different to begin with.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's great that you mentioned about the darkroom, because I think the darkroom adds a lot of value that I like in photography, because if you have some experience in photography or film camera, using the film camera, you will know that when at the moment that you click the button and try to capture that moment, you don't actually know what you will capture in your photo. And like here, I would tell you that many of them, I don't expect they look like these at the end. But so I think film camera is making the whole image making process so indirect, and after that, after pressing the shutter, you have to go through all the chemical stuff in darkroom, and also you are having that waiting section that you don't know what will happen in the final photo. So I think I also like this unexpected result of film camera, and yeah, you two mentioned the photo graveyard that I will mention in the coming slides, because in my writing project I also have some other image accompany the writing. So they are like putting side by side and juxtapositioning each other. Then they are from the so-called photo graveyard, because I will always think that I'm such a bad photographer. So many of the photos I just feel like, it's a total failure and I should not show them at all. But when
I think
but when
Gala
I have
and I
to
disagree.
Yeah,
use
we
them,
disagree.
Yeah. When I have to use them in the writing project as an image, then I would just crop them properly in order to make it like they are still okay, but not total failure. But yeah, you will see. All of you will see in the coming slides. So maybe I just move on. Okay, so this some photo that I have taken, but yeah, very brief, very experimental. Okay, then we go to printmaking. Printmaking is always a medium apart from painting that I like so much, because I think printmaking is very, very repetitive, and also it is quite silly for the process, because this is some lithographic prints that I make, and I always think that sorry, I have to explain a bit about lithography, because for lithography it is a technique in printmaking that can resemble the drawing feeling so much among other printmaking technique. So actually, if I didn't say this is printmaking, maybe you say, is this just drawing? But actually they are prints, and I have to draw on the stone, and so it's not really a big difference from drawing on paper. Of course there are differences, but it is not super diverse experience. As long as you can manage the printmaking technique, then you can like print a drawing out. I like printmaking so much because of the stupid process that actually you can just draw on paper. Why not? Why I have to make it so troublesome for myself that I have to like sand the stone and then start drawing and then do lots of troublesome process in order to create another drawing like prints is quite stupid. But I think that's why I like printmaking, because I think this repetitive nature echo a lot with how I look at my daily life. I think, for example, if I have to understand a watch, if I have to get a concept about this watch, then maybe I have to look at it for 10 times, 100 times, or 1,000 times in order to get an idea of what it is. So it's the same as some other daily observation when I was trying to like capture the atmosphere of one space, then I have to revisit it lots of time in order to grasp what it is about. So I think it's a similar nature with printmaking, and I just love this nature so much, and that's why I revisit this medium as well. Okay, so let's talk about writing. There are two writing projects that I'm going to introduce today. The first writing project is called B. The title is B. Actually, it was a writing book that I try to present for a kind of assessment of my study here. Because at that time, I think that I have already written down something, no matter short writing or some longer passage. Then I feel like maybe it's the time for me to collect all of them, gather all of them in order to show what I have actually written down. And I think it's good for myself too, because then I will see, I have a different variety of writings. Maybe they are in different themes. But yeah, then to have this categorizing process is really great for me to review on my own work. So you may see it here that there are the writing on one side and the image on the other side. For the image appeared in B here, there are sometimes some snapshots, or there are some documentation of some of my work, or there are some image from news, everyday news. So sometimes they are shorter writings, or sometimes they are longer. And so I mark it down with the dates as well, because I guess when I wrote all of them, I think the dates matters a lot as well, because that refers back to that particular day, how I felt or how I put everything together as a writing. So for this one, starting with the TV, I will read it later when I talk about the Midnight TV, because actually this piece of writing is describing how I feel about my set of work, Midnight TV. So we will come back to this later. But yeah, let's see what is B first. And yeah, the second project that I'm going to mention is called Drizzle. For Drizzle, yes, Drizzle is like a self-initiated project, writing project that I want to. It's like a task that I gave to myself. So altogether there are 6 Drizzle passage, and today I'm going to show the 3rd Drizzle and also the 6th Drizzle. But yeah, let's see what's for. Yes, Gala?
Question time.
Rafi is making a question. He says, does your photography inform your writing or vice versa?
I would also like to.
Yeah.
I'd like to add to that question too. I think it's also because you just started talking about Drizzle too, and perhaps we've mentioned the photo graveyard, and perhaps talking about those two concepts together might make a lot of sense now.
Yes. And yeah, I guess, yeah, thank you for the question. And I guess maybe it's also a good time for me to explain how I work especially in Drizzle, because I think in Drizzle that just the positioning of text and image is very clear. So how I work.
And you also described it as almost like a matchmaking game that you do with yourself. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So okay, how I work on Drizzle. Yeah, let's see some.
Yeah, maybe you can show one of them. Yes, like we can have an example.
So how I work on Drizzle. Actually, for Drizzle, I always have the writing first. And for the writings, usually when I think about the writing, I try to grasp all those fragment writings, maybe just some short sentence that I have written down in my daily life. Then I try to group them all together as a full writing. So it is like a script as well, a script for drama, you may imagine. So after finishing the writing, I would go to the photo graveyard that I think, oh, they are all deserving abandoned, all those bad photos. And yeah, you may not believe it. This graveyard I have collected more than 10 years. So for some photos, like this one, they are actually taken when I was studying in high school. So the graveyard is really a long time graveyard already. So yeah, I will go to the graveyard and then I will do this image text matching game for myself. I will see, okay, which image will match with this sentence. So will it match with, but I hope I can stay? or maybe the other image will work better. Yeah, so I will have this lots of decision making about how to match them better. And I think actually the text and the image is like helping each other, because if I don't have the image here, then of course you can still understand the writings, I guess, but the image adds more value or adds more imaginary thoughts for you in the writing. So I think they help each other.
And is it always easy to find that match between text and image, or?
Not always. Sometimes I think it's super fast. Maybe it's like, yeah, bingo, that's it. That's the one that I want to choose. But sometimes I just feel that the sentence itself is very indirect or very blurry. So it's very hard to think of which photos to use. Yes, so sometimes it takes more time, but sometimes it will be yay, bingo, like that. Yeah, it's quite different. And it's so overall, Drizzle looks like a slideshow. And maybe I should also explain that at the beginning, for Drizzle, I want to make it as a kind of video or maybe some moving image. But at the end, due to the time limit, I just want to focus more on how I do the matching instead of giving myself more technical challenge, because I never tried to make a video in the past. So let's make it later. So that's why I keep this easy format to show it in like a slideshow format. And it goes with a certain sequence as well. Yes, for this one, it's just for you to feel how it looks like for Drizzle. But I'm going to read out the Drizzle 6 to you all now. Because I think reading is also an important part for Drizzle. Yeah, you will see. Okay, so here is Drizzle 6, and I will read it now. Can I? Yeah, when I was doing my reading, I will stop my video. Okay. Drizzle 6. Sometimes I think you have died, as if the fluffy cloud called you on the phone. You answered and you left. You began to live inside the cotton ball ever after. My neighbor is playing piano. His job is to repair pianos. That's why he always repeats the same notes and rhythm throughout the day. I like to hear how he listens, talks, hesitates, and does the checking. It is like doctor listening to our lungs. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. The cold stethoscope touches our bare skins. So that's the end of Drizzle 6. Okay.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah, that's how Drizzle look like. And I also think, yeah, as I said, the reading is important, because I guess you can also know how I do the reading pace and how the flow might sound to me, at least to me, because maybe other reader, they have their own pace of reading, but if you hear my reading, then you understand how I break the, yeah, how I do the break. So let's talk about Midnight TV. Midnight TV is actually the kind of assessment setting that I have done for this first semester of my study here. And so it is not a proper exhibition or what, it is just a kind of exhibition, like a showcase setting that I want to make it more clear and tidier for the assessment. And as I mentioned, I didn't have any intention to make a show or group something together as with the same theme. I just did each of them separately. And at the end, when I want to conclude a bit about what I have done in the semester, I just start to group them together at that particular point, but not before. So you can see there are paintings on paper, some settings, some sculptures, and I guess maybe I should talk a bit about the title Midnight TV, because I think all this work here, they gave me a feeling of both present and absent. I think it talks a lot about not being so focused. So as if you were you turned on the TV in midnight, the screen is showing something, but you are not really that aware of what actually is showing there. And yes, I think that at a certain period of time, I think this feeling of both feeling present and absent was very, very vivid for me when I was leaving. So I guess that's why I want to have all this together and have this free theme called Midnight TV. Okay, that will be the separate work documentation. But before that, I want to read out the writing that I mentioned. So let me go back to
yes, and if you can explain a little bit about the yellow cup. I know there is that you will read it anyway, but do you remember that the chocolate?
Yes.
The hot chocolate cup.
Yeah.
This one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's funny how to see it now and then
It pops
hear
up
it
again.
reflection. Yeah, in the poem.
Yes. Okay. Remember this, and now we will jump back to the writings. Okay. Somewhere here. Okay. This. Bye-bye video. The 10th of March 2020. TV said he has insomnia. How are you? Flowers being softly touched. Stir for 3 minutes. Moved. Placed too high. TV start to play his own shows. Indeed, there are hardly any good shows in overnight. Either those classic drama series or those readily disposable programs which no one cares. He once shared a nice show though. It showed how someone pinched a vase. Yes, it was using the pinching technique, yet he pinched paper, not ceramics. The person also colored the finished vase. When it was complete, it looked like an antique vase that seems to be heavy. There was no flower in the vase. The person said it was just a paper cup for cheap hot chocolate. but since the sun was particularly bright in that afternoon, he started to like these paper cups as well. So that's why he put the vase and the paper cup together. Several hours passed. The TV still looked awakened. Perhaps he has played too long, too much. He started to have all kinds of color cards: light green, color blue, magenta. He shouldn't broadcast anymore and should go to sleep if he is really tired. He said he couldn't control it, but would try to sleep. I don't really understand what is try to sleep. Then I guess I fell asleep. The last image I remembered was a pair of flattened trousers. Okay, I'm back. So that's the writing that describe, or at least that I think it echo with the group of work. Because in the past, maybe when I have had some exhibition, I try to also write down some artist statement or exhibition statement, but usually it just felt like some functional writings instead of some personal writing about the word. So I think for this writings, it is the first try for me to really rethink about the work and to turn it into writing. And I think after all, I would feel more clear about what I have worked visually. Yeah, so let's go back to the last part. That's the painting on paper. Yeah, and also
I think, sorry, Ting Ting, that also this poetry format allows you to go farther, no, to express yourself in another way. It's not like just paintings now. It's more complex in a way.
Yeah, it's true, because I guess maybe when I was in Hong Kong, I know that I work mostly on painting, and somehow or sometime it become an invisible pressure for myself that, okay, you work on this area, of course you can work all in other area as well, but well, if you always have the pressure of paying rent or maybe doing some shows, then you will not have sufficient time to think of other possibilities, or you may think it's too luxurious to just sit down and to think about the work. So yeah, the more poetic format of writing, I think, released myself so much from the functional writing that I believed in the previous education. So it's not about to explain what is this is about, but to still keep it vague. Yeah, so I guess that's what I want to do in writing now. And yeah, so let's look back to the work there, the individual work documentation instead of the installation view. Then you may also understand or rethink a bit about the writing again. They are also in newsprint, so you can see lots of tension within the paper, even though they are also painting, but they are not painting on canvas, but painting on paper. So actually the paper capacity is not for heavy painting, but I just don't care. I put all the things that I want to put on it. and this one is the paper vase.
Just a quick time check. I think it's 10 in Hong Kong now. So perhaps we can go through your paintings on paper really quickly, and then we can open it up to questions to everybody as well.
Yeah, I think for this part, I can really go faster because to be honest, I think they are more like, okay, I try out something during the lockdown time because I'm at home and I still want to do a bit of work, but they are not as important as the previous part that I want to say. But yeah, this is the wall that I'm opposite on at the opposite side, or what? Yeah, of this side. So you can see there are some drawings on the printout photo, because when I was still at school, we can print out some huge size of image from the school printer. So the paper itself is quite large, and there are some street views of Bergen, this city, but I just paint over them. And so I think I'm both using the original photo scenery, but at the same time, I want to fight against the original image. So you may see some of the original part here, but also I just want to erase them with the strokes, with the pastel, wash, whatever. So it's like having the image, but also not using it, or maybe a kind of rebellious fight with it as well. Well, so some of them maybe I keep more of the original image, but some of them I just keep a smaller part of it. It varies. And this one, you don't even know so well about the original image. This is on map. Actually, I also have some similar approach in the past, but maybe I didn't show that much in an exhibition. And this one, I was like preparing it, but at the end, at the end I didn't continue because I think that it seems quite nice to keep it this form, because usually before starting to paint on the paper or the printout photo, I try to attack the photo with some collage, some drawings, in order to disturb the original image. Like this. There are some cutout, or I just hear some of my old drawing out and paste it on the photo in order to feel that I no longer work on this image. I go from it and I will continue with my painting on it. But for this one, I decided not to work anymore because I feel like, I guess I like this curve so well, and I don't know why the whole whiteness in this work, I just want to keep it. And yeah, so sometimes it just varies for what I would do on the work. Yeah, okay, there are some behind the making of the painting, so you can see that now this is the street view that I mentioned, and this is the original photo, and I try to attack it with the strokes, drawing, whatever. And this was one of the paper poster. Yes, yay, yeah, that's the last slide of
the yellow cup.
Yes. So that's the end of my presentation for today. I think now we can answer questions.
Yeah, is anyone?
Yeah, thank you so much for all the pictures and texts and poems. If anyone has any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask. If you're feeling shy, please feel free to type as well. Anything works.
Oh,
Stop share first.
well, if
I can.
we can maybe break the ice. Priyanka,
Auntie is
what do
here
you
too.
feel?
I'll volunteer.
Okay, okay, okay.
I have a question. Because I feel like Ting Ting seems to be interested in respond to where you are at the moment when you're making arts, no matter it's in a painting format or it's even in like written words. So is this always in your practice, or like does your like studying abroad experience really inspire you to like adapting this response to your physical environment?
Yeah, thank you for the question. And I think actually, I think overall, even in the past, I'm quite sensitive of the surrounding environment that I'm living in. So even in Hong Kong, I feel like when I was like going to the same place or passing by the same district every day, I will be very aware that actually I'm going through all this scenery and they affect me so much, even though they are just like a routine for every day. But at the end, it becomes like, oh, they appeared in my life for like thousands times, then it really affects a lot. And so I think when I come here to Norway, I also keep that attitude or that sensitivity in order to try to grasp every mood that I think is relevant to myself and which moment may hold me in my life. Because I would also say during this last year, it was quite a difficult time for me to be abroad. Uh, uh, when I was away from home and our home city, Hong Kong, is facing so many difficulties this year, it's very difficult to concentrate on everything. Even I said that Bergen is very calm in general, but even in such a calm environment, I was working so hard to feel like I'm doing this. I have to do this, or at least I have to. I can't collapse. So I think it's also a strong, yeah, even difficult, more difficult struggling between the space that I'm living in, but also maybe having some other thoughts in my mind. Yeah, but
There's also a related question from John. He says, thanks, Ting Ting. Are your political views or your view of the anti-government protests starting to appear in your artwork? It was just a question in the chat box. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, John. I think not so much, I would say. Or maybe it's like yes or no, because I think because in general, I think if I want to express my political view, I would try to work on it as a normal Hong Kong citizen. But I don't feel it's powerful to work on to show it in my work, because it would be like just talking to the art circle people, or yeah, the audience will be very limited. I would say if I want to do something like a activist thing, then I would prefer to do it as a citizen. Yeah, because in general, I don't believe that at work can be the best way to talk about my political view. So that's how I think. But yeah, I think actually it is inseparable for the political side and also the personal side. So even in the writing project B, you can see some image, so there's some news image that people are being suicide, people fell down from the building. Can I avoid not seeing them? I can't. So that's why they still appear in some of the work, but yeah, it's unavoidable. Thank you.
I'm also curious, since we're already talking about the Hong Kong identity. So when you arrived in Norway, and now you have, classmates, professors, your neighbors, are they curious about your identity, or like, do they influence you, or yeah, curious about that.
I think in general, it is not that much attention to my to where I come from, I would say, because of course people know that I'm from Hong Kong, and I keep saying that I'm from Hong Kong, but do they actually know so well about what's going on in Hong Kong? That's a question, because I for the last year I think I keep talking about what's happening in Hong Kong, but actually not many people are really interested in knowing about that. And to be honest, it is also like a trauma for them if they know too much about the protest, because here in Norway or in Scandinavia, people are living in a happy life. So but it is really like, for them is some social instability is something really like an attack for them, I would say. So I think even for myself, I change for my attitude. I talk, maybe for the beginning, I talk quite a lot about Hong Kong. But now maybe I will start to think, is that the right moment to talk about that? That kind of things. But that's my attitude, to feel like I should share it whenever I can. But I think when I was when I'm here in Bergen, when you have to listen to other language and you are in a totally different environment, you become more aware of who you are. So I think it's more about looking back to myself when I was living in when I'm living in a different environment, because yeah, people are just all different. And yeah, one of my classmates, she is from Iran, so actually she also have a different story from her country. So sometimes I think it's really great that I can know more different stories from the world, and not just from the news perspective, but more from a personal sharing perspective.
Thank you. I asked this question because, if you went to a different country for the program, or for, a longer term stay or residency, what is happening in that region may have an impact on what you might care about, or what could be the focus, or could be something appear in your work. So yeah, we can chat more later about, yeah.
Okay.
I see a question from Joseph, so
Yes.
Gala, Priyanka, do you wanna read that?
Yeah, I can just read Joseph's question. he's saying, I think the creation process of your photography differs from your paintings and printmakings, which contain multiple layers and steps. But your photographies are more like shots, which are like shot impulsively without retouching. So may I know more about it? So the difference between the process of photography versus your paintings and printmaking.
Yeah, I think that I also heard about this similar comment from my professor. I didn't aware so much of the difference indeed, but I also think that when I really look at it more, I will see that photo is like my photo is more like the raw materials that you have no retouching, as you said. And I guess that's why I want to work on them. Because as I mentioned in my drawing, painting, printmaking, everything happens in my mind. They are being processed in my mind or within me, because I think when I was painting, when I was drawing, that machine is me. But when I was doing the photo taking, the machine is the camera, of course. Then yeah, I think then it becomes very natural that things are keeping fresh, but the other things are like more being processed, and they're within me. So, but yeah, I guess, and I guess because when every day we see so many still photo now, we are like scrolling our phone every day and looking at so many photos from the news or from other source. We are already very influenced by still image, no matter it is related to ourselves or not, but we are being so influenced by that. And I don't know, I just want to capture it by myself too, instead of just working on my painting, which is more retouch, more processed within me.
There's a question by Chita, and she said, "Hello, everybody. Hi, Tintin. Sorry if my question is too naive, but I wonder if you ever get any pressure to move on to a newer medium, such as installation, etc. I don't mean that you should. I love your work and the way you are very dedicated to your chosen practice, but sometimes it happens to artists who stick to the traditional mediums, and I would love to know your truths about it." It's in the chat box as well if you want to read it.
Yes, thank you for the question. Yes, I think it's a good question because to me, especially when I can have the more freedom to work on different media here right now, I would sometimes also think yeah, there are so many possibilities, and the boundary between different media is no longer that tight. You can just go from this area to another area, and it doesn't matter really. I belongs to a particular medium or not. But I haven't make any like decision, but I guess it's just not necessary to make a decision yet, because yeah, I think now I would consider art practice even more for lifelong practice. So it is not just about what I'm doing this year or what I'm going to do within the coming 5 years. It will be more much more longer than 5 years or even 10 years. So I think I need more observation about myself, and I will see how it evolves. But yeah, I think if I must say how I feel now, then I still feel like I'm from having the blood of painter, because I think every artist have their own blood, and you can't get rid of that so easily. And yeah, and even I don't work on painting so much in Bergen, but I still feel that I'm strongly connected. And I must say that even I'm not working so much on painting this year, but I'm so glad that I realized I built up the strong bonding between me and painting for the previous years. That's something that no one knows, but I know. And with that trust, I know that I can explore other things without any fear. And yeah, that's how I feel.
Perhaps we have time for one last question.
Hmm.
Gala, do you have any questions? Or Anchi? Anchi's back.
No, Chess, I want to say that I love this idea of the machine, like of the body machine that is making the works. And also with blood, it's like an amazing figure, you know, like a machine with blood that is making the paintings. I love that idea. And I enjoy very much your presentation and everything, Ting Ting. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. There's also a comment from Jing who says, thank you, Ting Ting. Just want to say it's lovely to learn a bit more about your new works, attempts, and projects. Smiley face.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys, and thank you, Ting Ting, for sharing. What is a good way to like stay tuned on your upcoming projects or works? Your personal website or social media, you can maybe share in the chat box so people can follow.
Yes, thank you so much for everyone's joining us today. Yeah.
And also thank you, Gala, and thank you, Priyanka, for the moderation. All right. Find the recording of today's visit on YouTube later. And yeah, that's it for today. Thank you guys.
Bye bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.